What's up, guys? My name is Christian. I'm back with another Pro Tools video today. Today is part 2 of learning the basics of Pro Tools, and I think that this series is very important, and it's been so fun to make so far. So today in this session, what we're going to focus on is organizing your tracks, color coding your tracks, creating a submix track and a master fader for your session here. We're also going to focus on, I'm actually going to delete these two tracks right here because we'll actually do that from scratch as well. We're also going to create some aux tracks for some effects sends, which is also important. Okay, so first things first, I have my session loaded up here, and this is a live session. So as you can tell, we have our vocal track right here, background vocal. We have an acoustic guitar, an electric guitar. We have a bass player. We have a kick in, kick out, hi-hat, snare, rack tom, floor tom, overhead. This was a church worship band, so they use multi-tracks with their live performance, and so we also have a multi-track track, say that 5 times fast, and then a click track. And these are all our tracks we're gonna be using today. And so when I dumped this into Pro Tools initially, everything was just kind of all over the place. I organized it. I always have my vocals up top, and then I go with guitars, bass, kick in, my drum kit, all that good stuff. So the first thing that I like to do, right? The first thing I like to do is to get my groups going. So when you upload, or not upload, but when you import your audio files into your session, you'll notice right here in groups, this all encompasses everything. So like mentioned in part 1, if you have all selected and you select a part of your session, it's going to select all your tracks. That's pretty common. So what we're going to do is we're going to create some groups here. So let's select the background vocals, right? So you can hold Shift while you click on each track and it'll highlight them. Command G for my Mac guys. And you can see right here, this is creating a new group. You can name your new group. We're going to name this Vox. And then you can see all the tracks available. This is our entire session on the left-hand side. And right here on this side, we have currently in the group we're creating, Trenton, which is the lead vocal, and the background vocals. So we're going to go ahead and hit OK. And so when we have our Vox group selected, when we select something within the session, it selects only these 2 tracks, right? Hope you're following me so far. Pretty easy so far. And so we are going to do the same with guitars here. We only have an electric and acoustic. If I had multiple acoustics and multiple electrics, I would have an acoustic guitar group, an electric guitar group, and then a group that controls the guitars overall. That's my process. Okay. Next, we have bass. There's only one bass, so we're not going to worry about that. We're actually going to select all of our drums here. All right, now we have groups for all of our major, tracks, right, that deserve to be in a group. Bass doesn't really deserve to be in a group because we only have one bass track. The multi-tracks don't need their own group, and the click track doesn't need their own group. Now, if you're doing a traditional studio session, then you might have multiple acoustics, multiple electrics, multiple bass tracks, because you're going to have probably a bass track going through a DI, a bass track going through an amp, all that good stuff. So it's always good to know how to create our groups. So we have our groups right here, right? And Command G is how you create those groups when you have your tracks selected. That's the first thing that I always like to do to get organized. The next thing, right, is creating a color scheme. And I have my own personal color scheme, and people are different. And so it's really up to you. But for vocals, I like to keep them pink. Bright pink, just so it stands out and we know those are the vocals. For guitars, I usually make them blue. For acoustic, I usually go a lighter shade of blue. And then for electrics, I usually go with a darker shade of blue. For bass, I usually go purple. And for all my drums, I usually click this kind of golden color because it reminds me of a cymbal. If I have a session that has, like in this one, multi-tracks or a pad or some kind of synthesizer or piano tracks, I usually make them a shade of green. And then the click track, I usually make like a dark, dark red. So that's our color scheme. So we're going to hit Command S to save all that. Command equals, and now we have a nice colorful session, and you know what is what. These are all our drums, vocals, guitar, bass, multi-tracks click. Without even looking at the track listing itself, you should know what general area you're in when it comes to your tracks based on the color, right? Golden brown, drums, easy. Pink, vocals, cool. So that's my tip number 2 is getting a good color scheme. This makes your workflow more efficient, and if you can save time, you'll make more money by saving time if you're doing this for freelance. The next thing I like to do in my sessions before I start mixing anything is I like to create my effect sends. So if you click on a track here, let's say click right, and we hit Command Shift N, it's going to prompt the create a new track. And so we're going to create 2 new tracks. Command down arrow will change the type of track. We want aux tracks for our effect sends. So command up and down will change the type of track it is. And then the command arrow will change it from mono and stereo. Always good to get these quick keys in your head. It makes life easier, right? So for our effects, let's make this a kind of sea green, because why not? We're going to call this one reverb. Command arrow to the right, we'll go to the next track. We'll call this one delay. And you're probably going to have more effects sends than this, but for the sake of demonstration, we're just going to stick with a real easy basic reverb, basic delay. This is where you would load in your plugin. We'll just slap on a deverb, right? We're not going to set any kind of parameters just yet. We'll have a separate video for that. And then for dynamics, let's, or actually, no, not dynamics. That's compression. Delay. We'll just go with H delay. Cool, so we have our effects. So this part is where it gets important, right? So for your effects, you're going to want to go to your inputs here, and you're going to go to your bus, and you can already tell I have a bus created for my delays and reverbs there. So we'll just select that. Select that. And we have our outputs 1 and 2, 1 and 2. Everything is output 1 and 2, right? So that's how you would do your effect sends. And then from here, for the sake of the video, if I want reverb, well, actually, let's solo save. So command clicking this button right here. So anytime you solo a track, let's say you want to hear the vocal, if you solo that track, it's going to bypass your effect sends. So if you solo save it, command click, and then you isolate your vocal, you'll still hear the reverb and delay that you have. So that's another tip. Solo save will also save you. So let's go ahead, and this is what this looks like, right? So you're going to send to the reverb and delay. And it's pretty typical to send vocals to a reverb and delay. And then you would do your mix in right here. So this is your effects send. This is how much you want, right? So I'm not going to be really playing along with the track just yet. We can have a session where we go over mixing and all that. But for the sake of demonstration, this is how you would send your vocal track to the reverb and delay effects. So after my effects sends, I like to create 2 more tracks. We're going to create Command Shift N, a stereo aux track, right? Because these This is going to help you out here. So we're going to name this submix. Okay. Input bus, I already have a submix, and it's being routed to output 1 and 2, right? So at this point, I'm going to create another track, and this is where our master fader comes in, right? Command, master fader. Okay. We're going to go ahead and hit create. Now we have our master fader. Let's actually change the color of click, since master fader, I usually keep whatever default color it is. So now we have our master fader right here. And this is also going to output 1 and 2. So at this point, you want your submix, you want all your tracks to dump into your submix, and then you want your submix to dump into your master. Because I like to add any kind of processing on my overall mix, right, into this fader, so compression, all that good stuff. Because if you add effects on your master fader and you turn down your master fader, it's going to reduce the signal going into the processing as well. So if you have a compressor right here and you start turning down your master fader, the amount of signal going into that compression is going to be altered. So that's why it's always nice to have a submix. So at this point, I would select, again, shift and click. Here's another important quick key. Holding option, shift, and then clicking on your output, we're going to send all of these at once to the submix. And you can see right here on the outputs on all my tracks just got routed to submix. Submix output 1 and 2, master fader output 1 and 2. I have it solo safe. Yeah, so that is what I like to do at the beginning of all my sessions before I start mixing anything. And then you can add more effect sends if you want. There's, you can have a vocal reverb, and then you can use this reverb for guitars. You can have a snare reverb. So there's, depending on what your session looks like and how you want to mix is how you're going to set up your effect sends. But that's generally how I like to do it. The last thing that I'm going to do is show you how to create little markers, right? So if you look up here, you'll see this little marker tab. This is a good way to keep track of where you are in your session. So if you click this little plus sign, you'll notice that you can actually name it. And so you can name this like intro, right? And so when you have this, you'll have to go through each of your songs, of course, and then you can go intro, add another one. Let's say verse 1, or actually let's just do V1 for shorthand, right? And now here's your verse. Bam, just like that. And then, I would have to go through the song. I'm not sure if the first verse actually is there, but for the sake of demonstration, right? And then we'll do chorus 1. And let's say chorus 1 starts right here, right? And then, so your marker is going to get created wherever your playhead is, right? So if you come here and you notice that, oh, this is the turnaround, right? Turnaround. And then verse 2, etc. Chorus 2, bridge, outro. Creating markers helps you get a good visual of where your playhead is for the most part. If you need to go back to the verse or chorus, and you need to make an edit there, then you know where generally chorus 1 is, where verse 1 is, and you can just go there. And that is pretty much it for this session. I hope this has helped you in regards to getting a color scheme down, getting organized, creating your groups, creating markers along your timeline here, and also getting a feel of routing creating effect sends, sending a vocal track to those effect sends, creating a submix fader and a master fader, which is always important to your mix, and routing all those tracks to the submix. And, I hope that this has helped you greatly. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Comment on how you like to set up your session. Feel free to share this video so I can make more content like this for you guys. I hope you enjoyed and stay safe.